This is going to be a rather different sort of presentation. Utilizing a series of philatelic covers and other assorted ephemera, we're going to look at the various types of businesses that evolved over a period of more than 50 years, that had their beginnings with the drug firm of Thomas Morris Perot. T. Morris Perot entered the retail drug business as a young man, and subsequently was graduated from the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy. In 1859, Perot's original building, seen in this early woodcut, was located at 19 North 4th Street, just above Market Street, which was Philadelphia's main business district. Having established himself as a wholesale druggist and manufacturing chemist, Perot soon began to acquire great wealth. By 1862, the postmark date on this cover, he had moved to larger, more spacious quarters at 621 Market Street. 612 Commerce Street, the second address seen on this corner card, was actually the rear entrance to his building, Commerce Street being but a small alleyway. Records show a damaging fire to the Market Street building on December 3, 1868. Please note the mortar and pestle on the left side of the cover. These were integral tools of the druggist's trade, used for crushing and pulverizing medication. The illustration in Perot's corner card shows a few more of the important implements utilized by a pharmacist at that time. Again, we see the mortar and pestle, as well as what is probably a home remedy book entitled Family Medicine. The cover has an indistinct cancellation, but the usage of the black jack stamp places it sometime during the Civil War era. This image captures several pages from one of Perot's early price lists. The company sold paints, oils, window glass, spices, dyestuffs, and sundry pharmaceuticals. Although these items appear to be quite disparate, many contain chemicals in common, such as alcohol and turpentine. An advertisement in an 1869 newspaper mentions Barker, Moore, and Maine to be the successors to T. Morris Perot. Perot, already a very wealthy man, had become president of the Mercantile Library Company of Philadelphia, and was instrumental in the founding of the Woman's Medical College of Pennsylvania. He had also been active in the struggle for reform in local municipal affairs. Perot died in 1902 at the age of 74. Although the cover's cancellation is indistinct, the stamp, issued in 1869, is probably an accurate reflection of the time period during which Barker, Moore, and Maine took over the business. On yet another cover, circa 1869, we see Barker, Moore and Maine's corner card, reflecting their ownership of Perot's drug manufactory. Again, we see the ubiquitous mortar and pestle. This is a colorful view of Barker, Moore, and Maine's storefront, as depicted at the time of the celebration of our nation's 100th anniversary. The cover's ad stated that they were the proprietors of the first national white lead and color works. Here is another centennial advertisement for Barker, Moore, and Maine's white lead and color works. This one is of a more patriotic nature. Shifting gears for a moment, in 1865, the Peter T. Wright Company was another wholesale druggist located at 609 Market Street, just down and across the street from our friends Barker, Moore, and Maine at 621 Market. Mention should be made that the 600 block of Market Street was just a few city blocks from Independence Hall, which was at that time called the Old State House. It's where the Declaration of Independence had been signed, and where our famous Liberty Bell was on display. There appears to have been a rapid succession of ownership at the 609 Market Street address, so that by 1867 Stretch, Bennett, and Company were the proprietors at this location. This illustrated billhead from 1869 shows that Joseph S. Bennett, who was the successor to Stretch, Bennett, and Company, who in turn were successors to Peter T. Wright and Company, was now sole owner of the company. In addition to his many other wares, Bennett was now also hawking brandies and wines. They were for medicinal purposes, of course. The obverse of this cover, docketed in 1871, further documents Bennett's continued ownership at 609 Market. With yet another shift in ownership, by the late 1870s, Barker, Moore, and Maine had moved across the street from 621 to their new address at 609 Market Street. Their six-story building can be seen in this colorful cover, which is probably from 1881. This cover is postmarked 1890, showing a train pulling a luxurious Pullman Palace car. It is of interest because underneath the Philadelphia postmark, you can just about see a small ad that should be very out of place on the exterior of a train. An enlargement of the ad shows it to be for Barker's Big Soap, Barker's Liniment, and Barker's Cattle and Poultry Powder. Now called the Barker, Moore and Main Medicine Company, this unused cover touts their ever-expanding line of products that now include Barker's Horse, Cattle and Poultry Powder, as well as Barker's Nerve and Bone Liniment. As the company continued to grow exponentially, it expanded its advertising and merchandising campaigns as well. This cover from 1893 touts Barker's Comic Almanac, a book containing nearly 150 funny pictures, side splitters, and button bursters. The comic book is, of course, a flagrant promotion for its many products. This is the 1907 edition of the celebrated Barker's Illustrated Almanac. It was truly a product of the times. Although alleged to be a booklet of an informational and advertising nature, it portrayed caricatures of African Americans in a most despicable manner. The U.S. cruiser New York is seen on this cover from 1897. It was one of 33 photographs entitled Glimpses of the Navy, available from the Barker Company in a 6x8 format. The USS New York was laid down in September 1890 by the Cramp Ship Company of Philadelphia. It was the second armored cruiser produced for the U.S. Navy. The first of this design was the ill-fated Maine. And who could forget the Maine? Notice also that the Barker, Moore, and Main Medicine Company has again moved to much larger quarters at 312, 314 and 316 Green Street, located in the Northern Liberties section of Philadelphia. We can see the company's Green Street, four-story factory, on a billhead from 1920. Google shows that the boarded-up building remains there today. It is interesting to note that even as late as 1920, the company continued to produce the same line of products, including its poultry remedy and nerve and bone liniment. Now it gets confusing. The corner card on this cover postmarked 1897 shows Robert Barker to be the sole successor to Barker, Moore and Main, his place of business now being 135 Arch Street, located in the Old City section of Philadelphia. And what happened to that building back at 609 Market Street? The 1901 postmark reveals that it was now inhabited by merchants Neild and Cleland, who sold rugs, carpets, and mattings. The building can be seen again in their illustrated letterhead from 1899. By 1903, Mr. Cleland was out of the picture, with Charles Neild remaining as the owner. And 4 years later, in 1907, Mr. M.D. Kaufman was selling fireworks, notions and stationery out of this same location. The face of the 600 block of Market Street has certainly changed drastically in the past 100 years or so. All of the older classic storefronts are gone, and both sides of the street are now flanked by more modern, very sterile-looking office buildings. T. Morris Perot and Barker, Moore, and Main are long gone as well. In their heyday, they and other drug companies made fortunes peddling snake oils containing ingredients such as cocaine and opium, labeling them as curatives. It was not until the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 that the United States government was able to halt such blatant chicanery. And undeniably, Barker, Moore, and Main certainly understood what the fellow meant when he said, "It pays to advertise."